The gravel dug into my knees as I tried to push myself up, the rough driveway scraping my palms raw. The sun blazed overhead, yet all I felt was ice. My father's grip clamped onto my wrist again, jerking me backward before I could stand. "Don't you ever block your sister's car again," he growled, dragging me a few more feet across the pavement as if I were worthless. But I hadn't blocked her car. I had only stepped out to grab a textbook from the porch when she suddenly decided she had to leave. One shrill complaint, "Dad, she's in the way again," was all it took for him to explode. Before I could explain, his hand was on me. My mother stood on the porch, arms crossed, sipping her iced tea like it was just another uneventful afternoon. "She wants to freeload here and take up space," she called out. "At least the trash can's finally useful." And with that, my father shoved me straight into a plastic city bin. The lid flew open. I slammed against the side, and it clattered shut behind me with a hollow thud. The stench was suffocating. I tried scrambling out, but the angle made it humiliating, clumsy. Lena, in her designer sundress, leaned against her car filming the whole thing, her laughter sharp in the air. "Finally where you belong," she snickered. I was 25. Unemployed, broke, still sending out applications for entry-level research positions after finishing my biochem degree. I had only been staying at my parents' place a few weeks to save for an apartment. But every day there felt like punishment just for existing. When I was younger, Dad had been decent, not warm but fair enough. Then Lena turned 15 and everything changed. She became the golden child. Private dance academy, trips abroad. When I once asked for new shoes for a lab internship, the answer was, "Your sister needs that money for her summer intensive." Now it wasn't just neglect. It was open hostility. After the trash can scene, I shut myself inside the basement room. The bulb overhead buzzed faintly. I wanted to scream, or cry, or both. But instead I sat still, rage simmering low and silent. I didn't even come up for dinner. Around 11, Mom knocked, not kindly. "You gonna stay down there sulking, or are you going to clean up the trash you spilled all over the driveway?" I opened the door. Her face didn't soften. "You know what you are?" she said, tapping her glass. "A leech with a fake degree. Lena's actually building something. You just stink up our house." She walked away before I could answer. The next morning they were gone. A note on the fridge in Dad's handwriting. "Road trip with Lena. Back in a week. Don't mess up the house." I could have used that time to leave, but where would I even go? My account had $93. Still no job offers. I called the only friend I had left nearby, Cassie, but she didn't answer. Last time she'd been over, my mom mocked her for bringing poor girl vibes to the porch. I didn't blame her for cutting ties. Then Lena's text came. A photo of my suitcase sitting at the curb. Oops. Took a detour. "Hope you like the view." I bolted outside. The suitcase was gone. My phone buzzed again. "Dad. We dropped your things off," his flat voice said. 91st Street Shelter in Ashland. "Time you learned how life really works. Let's see if you survive." Then he hung up. I stood barefoot on the porch, chest hollowing like it was caving in on itself. Ashland was just 300 meters away. But they'd really done it. They'd stripped me of everything, clothes, ID, keys. Even my laptop, my research notes, the old backpack I carried everywhere. All of it gone. And in my head, Mom's voice echoed. "You stink up our space." Something inside me broke, but not with despair. With resolve. No tears, no screams. I straightened, walked next door. Mrs. Talia, the elderly neighbor who always asked about my studies, opened the door. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Sweetheart, what happened to you?" I didn't hide the truth. I told her everything. And do you know what she said? Well, about time someone showed them what real survival looks like. She pressed $40 into my hand along with a business card. "My nephew Malik runs a vintage restoration shop 2 towns over. Call him. He owes me a favor. You're brighter than they'll ever be." I stared down at the card. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like garbage. I felt like my life was finally moving forward. Those first weeks at Malik's restoration shop were nothing short of punishing. I swept endless piles of sawdust, sanded down antique bedposts until my fingers split, and lugged wardrobes that outweighed me by double. Yet Malik never shouted, never criticized. He simply observed. When I handed him the reupholstered bench I had poured 2 days of non-stop work into, he gave a single nod. "You've got grit," he told me. "That's rarer than talent." He had no idea how deeply that landed. I hadn't heard words of recognition in years. With the small stipend he gave me, I bought a thrift store outfit and a cheap prepaid phone. I slept on a narrow cot in the shop's backroom, kept quiet, and worked endlessly. At night, I buried myself in design manuals and wood finishing techniques as though my survival depended on them, because it did. By the 3rd month, Malik trusted me with my first client, a wealthy widow who wanted her late husband's roll-top desk restored. When she saw the finished piece, tears welled up in her eyes. "I haven't seen it shine like this since our wedding day," she whispered, running her fingers along the polished oak. She paid me in cash, more money than I had made in months combined. Standing in the cold alley with that envelope in my hand, I realized I wasn't just scraping by anymore. I was creating something real. Meanwhile, my family hadn't called. Not to check if I was alive, not to offer help, not even to taunt me. I was erased, discarded like a bad debt. But I hadn't forgotten. One night, I searched Lena online. Of course, she had an open Instagram. Her newest post stopped me cold. A lavish picnic set in our old backyard. Champagne glasses raised, the caption reading, "When dead weight disappears, life finally tastes like rose." The fury I thought I had buried surged back, not as chaos, but as precision. They weren't just relieved I was gone. They were celebrating it. I decided survival wasn't enough. I would rise so high they could never ignore me again. I enrolled in night classes at the community college, earning a 2nd degree in carpentry and design. By my 2nd year, I launched my own Etsy shop. Reclaimed furniture, restorations, custom builds. Orders poured in, interior designers, real estate stagers, even television set decorators. My work carried a name of my own choosing, Rue Hart. No one knew my past. No one needed to. Until one day, a familiar name appeared in my inbox. Martha Brenton. My mother. She had no idea it was me. The subject line read, "Urgent inquiry, custom dining table." I nearly laughed. She needed a centerpiece for a gala Lena was hosting in that same backyard. They wanted a designer with grit, originality, vision. They wanted me. I accepted, but at double my usual price. They didn't hesitate. When the delivery day came, I didn't show up in person. I hired a driver. Under the glass centerpiece of that table, I slipped a folded letter. Not rage. Not revenge. Just truth. "You dragged me across your driveway like I was nothing." But that driveway became my starting line. "This table is the last piece of me you'll ever afford. Rue Hart." And on the underside of the wood, etched in burn marks, invisible unless you looked closely, "Dead weight floats when it's carved from stone." Later, Malik told me what happened. Lena nearly fainted reading it. My mother locked herself in her room for the rest of the night. My father stormed out, shouting about betrayal in front of dozens of guests. It was flawless. But it wasn't the end. I had one more move. That winter, a letter arrived in a plain envelope. Inside was a photo of my childhood home, the caption, "Foreclosure pending." The house they had worshipped as their temple, the place they used to destroy me, was slipping away. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. But something inside me stilled. A week later, Malik asked me quietly as we worked, "Will you help them?" "No," I answered. "But I'll give them one last thing worth remembering." Auction day arrived. I didn't go. Instead, I sent a couple I'd once helped. A young family I'd restored storm-damaged furniture for free of charge. They had a newborn. They were kind. They deserved more. And when the auctioneer's gavel fell, they became the new owners of that house. But the real revenge wasn't in taking it from my family. It was in what I did next. I asked the couple to wait 2 weeks before moving in. Then I had invitations printed on fine cardstock. Open house celebration. A new beginning at 27 Burwood Drive. I delivered them personally to my parents and to Lena. On the day of the open house, they arrived, expecting reconciliation, maybe pity, maybe a chance to reclaim what they lost. Instead, they were met by a wooden sign in the yard. This home was rebuilt with grace, not guilt. The young couple greeted them warmly, their baby in their arms. "You must be here for Rue," the woman said kindly. "She gave us everything." My father's face drained. My mother blinked like she was dreaming. Lena flushed scarlet. That's when I stepped out from behind the hedge. No makeup, no designer clothes, just overalls, work gloves, and a clipboard in hand. They froze. "Why?" my father barked. "After everything, we're your family." "Yes," I cut in. "After everything. And I gave the house to people who will never use a countertop to smash my face, who will never scream down a staircase, who will never drag me across gravel just to prove they could." Lena sneered. "You think this makes you better?" "No," I said calmly. "It makes me free. You could have helped us. You should have. You were our daughter," my mother pleaded. "You threw your daughter in the trash," I answered, faintly smiling. "You don't get to be surprised when she becomes recyclable." They left wordlessly, but not before I gave them one final box. Handcrafted, smooth, polished. Inside, a crushed soda can, an old photo of me as a child, tossed in the garbage with bloody knees, and a note. "You taught me what worthlessness looked like. I'm just giving it back." I never saw them again. Once, maybe a year later, Lena emailed me under a fake name, asking for a commission. I declined and blocked her. Now, I craft furniture for people who understand value, not just cost. I work under my name, with my own hands, shaping stories into wood. Not for revenge anymore, but for survival, for beauty, for freedom. From the broken scraps they left behind, I built my life. Please subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.